Hello everyone, and welcome to a tier maker. Yes, Hellfire Tactics tier maker of 80s Archdemons. Oh yes, so this is a very personalized list. Subject to change as well. I mean, things could happen in the game, and also me improving as a player, and you know, all that kind of jazz. So this is my personal choices. It's not. You can definitely disagree with me. That's completely. I mean, this is not exact science, so to speak, right? This is just opinions, right? It's just opinions, and that's all it is. So anyway, guys, I hope you will enjoy it, and yeah, let's get into it. The first character we need to speak about here is, of course, Akash. I think he's also gonna be the one that is gonna be subject to some critique on my part. The main reason is I can right away put him in F, right? So now I haven't played with him, not a single time. No, he's the only character or the only AD I do not have a game with. I could be completely wrong about this guy. I think it is the AD that I am most. I have most problems with, right, in terms of knowing stuff about him, because I haven't played him. I don't know how well it feels when I actually get into a game with him. So, but I am going to put him in F, because there is a reason why I'm not picking him, and that's because I don't think he's really good. Now, there is a couple of things about this that I want to say. First off, when we are talking about ADs, I feel like there are two different types. There are high rollers and there are tempo builders. They can also be both things. They can be good enough to be both things, depending on what kind of, you know, units are banned and stuff like that, right? And also what type of, if you're up against a 4-player lobby or a 8-player lobby. It depends. It really depends. So I'm building this list entirely on the thought of being in a 8-player lobby, okay? And I have made my thoughts around. I've actually made 2 other lists already, a top 4 and a high roller list, right? Characters that are good to get, or ADs that are good to get into top 4s with, and those that are really good to high roll with, and also really good at getting into a finishing position, right? So Akash could be a really good high roller. I just haven't played him. I do believe that Akash would be very, very good with Atlantean, vampires, and greeners, because that is the 3 end type units you want in the low tiers or low cost tiers, right? You have the greener, what is it called, Greg. You of course have the vampire Lord, and you have the Atlantean, what are they called, Delish, yeah, going into a shark. That's the 3 you want to bet on. And if the only time I could consider taking this guy is when I see none of these unit types being banned, right? That's the only time. But for now, he's in my F tier, and you know, in a week, maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks, he could be in D, he could be in C, he could even be in B. But I don't see that, but I have seen, there is one guy in here that I have changed just a couple of days ago, quite a big amount. But yeah, Akash F tier, there we go, that's the first guy in there. Next up is the All-Seeing. Oh boy, this is another one that is really hard. It's really hard to rate, because All-Seeing is what I would categorize as pretty much a high roller, right? As a high roller, I think All-Seeing is probably an A. Okay, I think that's about where All-Seeing is. It can definitely high roll into, you know, the World Eaters and stuff like that really well in the late game. But the problem is, to get there, it's probably in D, right? Top 4 placements. It's really hard to get a top 4 placement with All-Seeing. It's one of the harder units when it comes to top 4s. So my feeling about All-Seeing is somewhere in the top tier C's, somewhere in there. I believe All-Seeing should be. Yeah, that's my feeling about All-Seeing. Honestly, that's about it. It's not an AD I pick very often, but yeah, if it's very late at night, or well, in my case, early morning when America sleeps, because that's where all the players play. I could pick it up just if I know it's a really good bot lobby, and I think, okay, this is a world eater. This is a world eater run. So yeah, that's what I use it for. If it's a full lobby, a C, right? It's a C. If it's a full lobby. So there we go. When it comes to units, I believe it doesn't really need any specific bans or have anything specific open. I think elementals are good to have open just because of how many magical units you have in there, and then go bada bombs, right? Just bada bombs, tons of lines, go crazy until you get the world eater. That is something you can do. So I like to have elementals open just to have more magical units for the bada bombs, or even just really big elementals for the world eye. I feel like elementals is good, but not necessary per se. Batty Bat. Oh boy, Batty Bat. Yeah, again, another one that I'm not a fan of. I just don't feel like that 1 mana cost on Beast is really worth it. To me, it's a D. I think it's okay, but it's just not really great. It's like a really bad version of Crowley, or I don't know. It's not even that. I just don't know when I want to take this guy over anything else in the when you have to pick, right? I just don't see how this is ever gonna really work. But if I was to ever consider taking him, or if you should be considering him, I would definitely say that Atlanteans should be open. And then hope for the love of God, that you're gonna see some Anamanod, and you're gonna see some, high roll into that Atlantean Hydrax kind of thing. That is the only, taking... He could actually be okay as a tempo builder if he's lucky enough to get those beasts really early on and just get a full board really early on. But that's a big ask. That's a big ask, and that's why he's in D. I don't see him as a very good kind of character. He either in tempo or in high roller, I rate him fairly low, because he doesn't really have a lot going for him with just, getting a slight mana buff kind of thing. It's just not great. Boss of Vardato. Oh boy. So this is one of those where, just like a cache, that I think some people might sit there thinking when they see what I have chosen. They might think, are you crazy? Are you mad? I put Bosferato in S tier. I think he's up there. Right? I really like playing him. I think he's good as a tempo builder, if you need to play him as a tempo builder, right? I like these types of ADs who can do both things and fairly good at them, and often... That's the thing. I think Bosferato can pretty easily get into a top 4 if you need to, right? If you really need to sell those units off early, you can do so. But you can also high roll and get really into a crazy vampire build, Atlantean build, whatever you actually want with him. That's the thing. You can basically do anything with him, and he will be fairly good. And I really like that type of unit, or that type of character. You can really get into those artifacts that's giving you more mana, take mana pest early, just go crazy with him, really high roll him. But you can also be fairly consistent in top 4. That is why I'm putting him in S tier, right? So in terms of Bosferato and picks, I would say he can go with anything, right? He can go with anything. But I do believe he is better with Ratican Elemental and Atlantean Open for different reasons. Ratican is pretty good early on for that early boost, and they also have a couple of really cheap units to sell off, of course. Those rats can be even cheaper if you have Potent Brew, right? That's a pretty solid choice. Elementals, same kind of deal. You have the fire elementals and water elementals you can sell off, even getting more powerful. And Atlantean is a really good high roll kind of situation for Bosferato. I feel like Atlantean is a good high roll build in general, but especially on Bosferato, I think it's a good one. So S tier, Bosferato, first S tier for me. The Brotusk. Oh god. Oh man, the Brotusk. I don't know about him. He's like an odd one, isn't he? I think he's a fairly good top 4 units or AD. I keep calling him units or whatever. You know what I mean. He's a fairly good tempo builder with those bananas, right? He's okay in that situation. He's probably like B, top 4 kind of thing. He will get in there pretty consistently just because of the bananas. You can sell them off and get a bit out of that as well. I think he's fairly good in B here, but I'm not going to put him in B because I don't think he's very good when it comes to winning the games. I think he's really poor at having any kind of high roller situations going for him. I just don't see how he could be any good compared to many of the other high rollers. So in that scenario, he's more like low D or low or even high F in that scenario. So I feel like putting him in top D. I think that's where he belongs. I don't pick him at all. I picked him probably 3 times, and all of them was... I think I am in top 4 in all of them, but nowhere near winning the games in any of them, I don't believe. But I think he is a really good pick for a... If you want to, in a tournament situation, want to get into a top 4, but yeah, I think he's like the tournament AD, right? He's that character you want to get if you just want that consistent top 4, right? Then he's a pretty decent pick. But otherwise, in these lobbies where you have a lot of bots and stuff, he's just not really... I mean, even then, he could do something, because then you could sit there saving those bananas and just plop them out there when you're up against the player. But it's just not. And it's also taking up a slot on the board when you do that. I don't like it. I don't like Protoss that much. I like his mechanic, but I just don't feel like he's a good character overall. Yeah. So there we go. Bullhead. Oh boy, another beast. I mean, Protoss, isn't he a beast? I don't know. No, he's a... I don't know what he is. But Bullhead. So Bullhead is an interesting one. He's one of the new ADs in the game, and... How do you rate him, right? I feel like he's very... I wouldn't say mediocre. I think he's slightly above mediocre. He's just... What are you calling that? He's just good. He's just good, right? I think he's actually maybe an A when it comes to tempo. Yeah. He's definitely good early game. He's pretty good early game. He's getting himself into a lot of top 4s. But... He kind of lags in the end, because he relies on those beast tags quite a bit, and if he can't really, you know, slide into another direction very easily, at least not without losing a lot of power. So I feel like he's like a C when it comes to end game, you know, getting into those first places. I think he's more a C player there. So I think overall we're putting him in like a mid-tier B kind of situation. Like B is just... That's where he belongs, I think. Countess. Oh, yes, Countess, the vampires. Ooh. Also a very decent AD. I kind of like picking her from time to time. It's not... I mean, it's one of those characters where I'm sitting there, oh, I could play that today, right? It's one of those. And I feel like in both tempo and also trying to finish off the game, she's kind of high-end B. She's not an A, but she's definitely high B scoring. In front of Bullhead, for sure. Absolutely, in front of Bullhead. Yeah, because she can also... She can kind... I mean, she can't really change direction. But if you're going for it, you can definitely both go high rolling, and you can usually be stable enough to get yourself into a top 4. She might actually be a little bit worse than Bullhead when it comes to top 4s. But overall, I think if we were going both top 4 and... I mean, top 4, she's probably a B unit or B AD. And also when it comes to finishing, you know, the game off in terms of how strong she can become very often, she's also a B. So there we go, a B. Crowley is one of those that are a little bit hard to judge, because it really depends on the games and stuff like that, right? It's a fairly hard one to judge. I think Crowley is fairly good when it comes to high rolling. He's probably A. He's like an A1 when it comes to high rolling, right? He's like top A. But he's not very good when it comes to getting into top 4 places. That's like a low C, something like that. Yeah. So I feel like just plopping him in here, in between Countess and Bullhead. He could be in front of Countess, but it's thereabout. It's in here somewhere in the B tier. I feel like it's a high B, like Countess. I think it's a high B. Should we put him in? You know what? I'm gonna put Crowley in front here. I think Crowley is in front of Countess. Honestly, I think so. Yeah. There we go. That's gonna be Crowley. And what I want to also say about Crowley is, when it comes to units, there is, and that's why I'm not picking Crowley too often. I probably have 10, 12 games or something like Crowley. But I do believe that because I'm high rolling with him more than anything, I do believe Atlanteans, Eldritch, and Elementals are pretty good with him. Because, I mean, Elementals is, you know, I don't feel like that's very needed, but I think Atlanteans are a thing with him. I do believe that, with, you know, you go the way of, what is it called? Eldritch Mana Guardians, of course, but in terms of... I can't remember his name right now. The Atlanteans that have that spell thing where you're putting spells on them and they, you know, it's a good way to get into a high drag. But also the Mana Guardian thing, yeah, he can do a lot of funny things. Also early game, he's not very terrible early game because he got that free mana and stuff he can do. He's a solid pick, a solid high B tier pick. I feel like, yeah. Zichong. I don't know how do you pronounce this guy? Chonk, I don't know. I have absolutely no clue how to pronounce him, and neither do anyone else, it seems. it's like you have 4, 5, 6 different ways of saying his name, apparently. This guy is one of the most annoying ADs to play, in my opinion. He's just so frustrating to play. Now, the problem I have with him is that he's also likely very good. The more I think about it, the better he becomes. And that's really annoying, because he is one of those that have a fairly good, like A tier early game, just because of the links. And he is also fairly good, again, because of the links, to have a high roller game with greeners or even elementals, right? So it's really annoying that he's just so annoying. If you're really good at moving around and have time to do that, if you're thinking really, you know, quickly about it and move the units around and all that, he can be absolutely, he can be one of the best characters. Yeah. So I think elementals and greener is probably top priority to have open. I think that's probably the two mains. And I do also think that Coven should be, you know, somewhat considered to be open. It definitely opens up a play for him with the Coven units. I at least do rate that a bit. If he has all three, I do consider him taking him when all three is open. But I still hate playing him. But I am putting him in A because I feel like he should be up there. Just because I don't really like playing him doesn't mean that he's not a good AD, because I do believe he is actually a really good AD. Demonstra. Oh boy, we're getting into the demons now. Alright, so Demonstra is also an interesting one to me. I think Demonstra is one of the absolute worst when it comes to getting into a top 4. Like, she's down here when it comes to getting into top 4s. She is fairly hard to get to work early game. You have the beast. You can go for the beast and get those fire. What are they called? The beast units, the fire beast. I don't even remember. Hellfire beast or whatever they are called, right? That buff each other and then go for other beasts to buff them up. Then you have the tempo to get into the tier 3, because this girl, she needs to get into tier 3 as fast as human possible. Because she is a tempo builder, 100% a tempo builder. Now, how good is she as a tempo builder? That is probably B. I think she's probably, you know, low tier B, maybe high B, kind of high roller. But that doesn't mean she belongs in B to me. I think she belongs more in a C kind of environment, low C tier. That is where I feel she should be, just because I I have a hard time if it's a full lobby we're speaking about here. Always full lobby we're speaking about this list. Specifically, this list is a top, you know, that is full lobby situation. I think Demonstra is a C tier, low C tier, likely. So yeah, I don't rate her very, very highly. What I would like to see open is probably, and I don't really remember, I think Atlantean and also Warden. Yeah. Maybe just for those early beasts on the Atlanteans, that could help out quite a bit. And also Warden could be okay, I think. I'm not sure why I'm thinking Warden right now, that's the thing. But definitely Atlanteans could be okay to have open, but it's not something you need. She can definitely go without anything and just have the demons and go crazy with that. But I still feel like she's a C. Right, so the other crazy demon, Ice. Oh boy, where are we putting Ice? Well, I think when it comes to the high roller situation, I think Ice is probably up here, like top A kind of situation, or even is, man. He could definitely be up there. The problem again is how good is he in the early stages of the game? I think he's like B, maybe low B when it comes to like top 4 placement. He can lose out on top 4s if he's not scaling his. Well, that's a problem, right? He doesn't really have any demons early on, so he doesn't really scale early on. He's just going for tempo, and he's not a very good tempo builder. Again, he could go for, like Demonstra, he could go for some beasts, and then scale those few beasts. But then, yeah, he's losing out on mana using spells early on then. So I feel like he's maybe, he's like very, very low tier A. He's one of the lowest A's there is, but he's still very good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I pick him very often, but yeah, that's probably where he belongs. I don't really have anything that he's probably the same as Demonstra here, probably Atlantean just for those early beasts if you want to go that way, just to have that tempo with the fire. But it's not as important because he doesn't get demons in the shop like she do, so he's actually worse than Demonstra early on. But overall, I feel like he's a better high roller than Demonstra is. Not that Demonstra is a bad high roller, because she guaranteed, you know, demons is not. It's not a bad thing. Like, it's not a bad thing. So it's like it could also be high tier B, but I'm gonna put him in the low A category. Fallen One. Ah, yes, the warrior builds. This is also one of those kinds of, he's like a average, right? He's a very average kind of guy. I think when it comes to tempo, he's probably B. When it comes to tempo, somewhere in B. And when it comes to, yeah, the scaling with the warrior, I mean, warriors, are they even a build? That's the thing. You do have the mounted builds. You do have some warrior builds with the holy knights or whatever they're called, unholy knights, right? So that's probably more C to me when it comes to finishing off the games. He can definitely do it, but he's not one of the best ones to do it with the warrior build. So I feel like he's probably a low B. He's probably somewhere behind Bullhead, just maybe one place behind Bullhead or something like that. Yeah, that's kind of where I see him as. Yeah, definitely where he should be going down. In terms of what kind of units I want to see on Fallen One not being banned, I kind of go in the direction of Warden and Ratican. I think Ratican is fairly good with the Fallen One. They do not have a lot of warriors, but they do have a couple. But Ratican in general is just good, and you can definitely make that hammer kind of Ratican build and then scale them off some unholy and just go crazy Ratican. That's one thing. And Warden is yeah, that's never a bad unit to have as a Fallen One. So go some barriers and, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, kind of a mediocre average B here, but definitely a decent pick to take. Gordo is, oh man, what is Gordo? I really have a hard time with him. I know that some people do rate him fairly highly. I do not at all, actually. I think as a tempo builder, he's like D, maybe high D. Yeah, that's where I am with him. And as a kind of trying to win the game situation, high roll, probably C. So yeah, not the greatest. I don't rate his ability very highly here. To me, it's also someone that I'm not taking too often. I do take him sometimes, but not that often, to be honest. I think he belongs in probably D1 above the Brotusk here for now. I think that's kind of where I feel like he is. Again, just not one that I rate very highly, so yeah. When it comes to bans, if I would consider taking a Gordo, Eldritch and Elementals maybe? Just because Eldritch and Elementals do have a lot of large units. So that's kind of the direction I'm... If those two are open, I consider Gordo a pick. If I see like Batty Bat and a Cash, that's like okay, I'll take Gordo then. But other than that, I don't really like him that much. Groundson, oh boy, the big old element. I don't think I can put him anywhere but the S tier. In front of Bosferato as well. It's... I don't even know what to say about him that you already know. I mean, the thing is, he can really do anything, can't he? He don't care what units are banned. He don't care what units he can take. It's like you can do anything with him. Easy top 4. Pretty good late build because you have all the direction in the world. You can go for anything. You can change direction mid-game as well because you have so much, you know, health and damage probably in the mid-game. So you can go any direction. You could kind of shape what you want with Groundson. And for that reason, I just put him straight up there as an S tier. Guardian So. Oh boy. So that's another hot topic here, right? How good is he after the yeah, small nerf he had? I still think he is almost as good as he was before. Now the question is, how good did I think he was before? Well, I think when it comes to tempo, he's probably here, just behind Bosferato, even maybe in front of him. But when it comes to, at least in my opinion, when it comes to Guardian So and getting into a late stage game, he significantly lagged behind Bosferato and Groundson. I also think he lags behind Shechonk and Ice. Because that barrier, yes, it's good, but it's not nearly as good later on. It's still good, but it is subject to be encountered fairly easy, right? It can definitely be countered. When it comes to his late game, I would say maybe B1 or something like that. B1 in front of Crowley here would be probably where I would consider putting him if it was you know, a final build with barriers and or whatever. That's the thing. He can also go for anything, right? He can go for anything, but I just don't feel like he's as good as the other guys when it comes to the late game. So where are we putting him? Well, I think it's a hard choice, but I think we're going to put him in A1 because he is a really good tempo builder. And he can still be really dangerous in the end stages. I haven't had a lot of good luck with Guardian So in the end stages, but that's also subject to my complete failures, right? But I think he's definitely in front of Shechonk or Shonk or whatever, and Ice as well. So yeah, Guardian So straight in there. Now, when it comes to units you want to pick as Guardian So, I don't think there is any rules here. I think having Warden open is making him better just for crazy amounts of you know, barriers and stuff. But it's not necessary per se. He can also go greener. He can go rats. He can do a lot of the same things Groundson or Bosferato can do. He's just a slightly bit better with Warden, I would say, but he can definitely do anything. The Hack. Oh boy, good old Axe Hack. Oh, where are we gonna put this? Greener. Yeah, I feel like as a tempo builder, he's probably in C. I don't think he's a very good tempo builder. He need his greeners, right? You can only really go one way direction with this guy, and that is greeners. And it's if you don't find those Sprout, I mean Sprout is not important, but if you don't find those Greg, if you don't find those, I guess the cavalry is fairly good. If you don't find those kinds of things, and also the boots are really important on him, if you don't find that, he's not very good. But if you do find those and get into a late stage build, he's an A, right? He's an A if he gets into that. He's dangerous. He's a real beast. Those greeners are absolutely disgusting on him. If he has that Greg kind of, you know, Greg and boots combined with some big cavalry or something like that, that can really be disgusting. Really, really disgusting. And then add some, what is it called? Is it called Captain? Yeah, it is Captain, right? He can be really disgusting, but to get there, he needs to get there in the first place, and therefore I'm putting him actually in B9, because I don't think it's that often. Well, he is subject to dropping out if he doesn't find his greeners, because greeners are contested, and if he doesn't find those greeners, yeah, then he struggles. Then he does struggle quite a bit. And then I feel like some of the other guys in here in B are actually better picks than him. But if he do get there, well, then he is an A. And if he doesn't get there, well, then he's in C. Therefore, B. Right? That's how I see it. Is there anything you want to consider when it comes to Hag? Nope, not really. He's straightforward. Just go in with him. I don't even see any. I mean, if you see like demons and also Ratigan being banned, well, good chance that there is a lot of people going greeners. So if you see that Ratigan and also demons are banned, you might consider taking something else instead of a greener boy here, because it's gonna be contended and you might not find them. Then you're probably better off taking something else. Next on the list is Inferna. Oh boy. Or next in our rankings here, our Inferna. This is yeah, that's F. It's just, I have actually, when I started out playing this game, I started a little bit late, after the beta was over, right? But also before the season started, so I started out playing with Inferno because I thought, oh, you know, one tier above, and ooh, that could be good, and she's terrible. I mean, it's you don't even have the mana to take them very often. You're just falling, if you're taking Inferno, you're just falling behind your competition in tempo. You won't get there. You won't get anything out of getting those big units if you don't have the mana to actually have the full board. So I just don't see how she's ever gonna work in her current state. She's one of the weakest ADs in my opinion, in all terms, both tempo and also end game. I just don't, because she's not getting to the end game very often. And if she does, it's because you're playing really well. That's it. It's not because she got a good kind of ability to her. Yeah, so that's my opinion. You can play anything with her. I think that's the only plus I can say about Inferna. You can play anything about. You don't really care about the bans, so that's at least something. But other than that, she's one of the absolute lowest ranked ADs in my opinion. Insidious is another one that I kind of rated higher to begin with, and he kind of fall down the list the further more I played, right? And yeah, to the extent where he's now, I rate him as a D, right? A top D. He's probably a top D. I don't know if he's in front of Gordo. That's the question. I actually don't think he's in top. I think Gordo is actually in front of him. Or her, or it. Yeah. Another, again, here you can definitely take Insidious, but I do not feel like the rituals, this ritual thing with double rituals, are that great. But you could go hunt for promotions, but you kind of need to get that build going where you can cast more rituals, and you also kind of want a lot of mana. And why not go Crowley instead then, right? It's like it's a worse kind of character than Crowley is. At least that's how I feel about it. It's like, why would you go Insidious if you can go Crowley? For the double promotions, you know, the dream, the absolute dream. Yeah, he's a fun kind of AD to play when it works, but he is frustrating when it doesn't. He's just not that great at all. So he's gonna go into the D. Jago, one of the best arts, if you ask me. I really like the art of Jago. How well do I like playing him? That's that's probably the main question here. Well, I think he's a pretty good tempo kind of AD, like B. I think he's a B kind of tempo guy, like top B when it comes to tempo. But when it comes to really finishing off the games, he's probably more in top C. So where are we going to put him? Well, sort of, yeah, probably just in front of Bullhead, I think. I think he's a little bit more consistent than Bullhead and can also, yeah, it's around that. It's like 4-1 Bullhead, Jago, Countess. That's kind of the mid-tier here. Mid-tier B. That's where I feel like Jago should be. Now, in terms of unit bans, I tend to not go Jago if Vampire Warden at Atlantean is banned, because Atlantean is, I guess, could be debated, but Vampire and Warden, I do like to see those two open if I'm going Jago. But it's like, I don't know if that's even the case. I don't think I've played enough Jago to say that specifically, but I definitely don't really pick him up if I don't see those types of units open. So that's at least my belief, but Jago is one of those that I haven't played too much. I only like got 7 games, 8 games maybe. So it's not one of my top players, but I don't mind playing him. I think he's a fairly decent little AD in there. Yeah, mid-tier B, right? It's that's where I feel he is. Joe Binks. Joe Binks is someone I had in my F tier for a very long time. I didn't rate him, and one of the main reasons I didn't rate him very high is because I thought that, oh, Joe Binks is elements and I hate elements and I don't want to play that, and kind of the same as Sichonk. Like I just didn't want to play that, and I thought, oh, he's really bad. It's like that, and then someone opened my eyes. Let's just say that. Let's just say that someone opened my eyes to Joe Binks, and also probably to Sichonk. That there is a different build you can go for on Joe Binks, and I don't know why, because it's actually kind of obvious. But Joe Binks is obviously a greener, right? He's a greener. He's a goblin or something like that. But I didn't consider how good it was to go full-on greener on him. Until I had, well, honestly, I probably did encounter it a couple of times during my plays, but it just didn't hit me that is what you should do on him. But I did find out by the streamer LSU, watching him, and I think Thanlon, his name is Thanlon, that he's definitely up there, man. He is up there when it comes to greener builds. Now the question is, now this is one of those guys that I have changed significantly in my last couple of days, right? I would have him probably in D or even in high F just a couple of days ago, just because I didn't really understand that he was actually that good with the greeners. And here's the other thing with him. Joe Binks doesn't need to go greener, right? You have that option, but if it's very contested, maybe with a hack in there, maybe someone else is going greener, you can definitely pivot into something else. You can pivot into a Coven build, you can pivot into an Elemental build. He is open to play in a couple of different ways. So I've just named the 3 kind of units I would say he needs to be played. He doesn't need all 3, but I think greener is the main one, I think Coven is the second one, and I think Elementals is the third one. Before this, I thought Elementals was the first one. Nope, I think it's the other way around now. I think you can actually miss out on the Elementals and have Coven and greener open, and you still have a pretty decent chance of getting a good game. So where are we gonna put him? Well, that's a good. I think as a tempo builder, he's not very good. Well, I'm saying that, and I'm probably saying B1. I think he's because he got if he got the Elementals right, he's still a fairly good tempo builder with all those links. So I think B1 it would be if he's straightly speaking tempo builder. If we're talking about also finishing off the game, I think he's higher than that. I think he's actually all the way up to like A2, something up here, right? Just behind Guardian So or something like that. So with that in mind, I'm gonna put him in behind Eyes, just behind Eyes here. No, that's not true. I'm gonna put him in front of Eyes. Yeah, so probably middle pack A. Middle of the A somewhere he's gonna be sitting, just behind Chunk. Is that really what I'm gonna do? Oh my god. Am I really putting him just behind? I don't know. I think they are so similar in many ways, but I think actually Chunk is better, but just way more annoying to play. I don't know. But yeah, I think I will do that. But it's kind of, it's honestly triggering me a little bit seeing this, because I feel like Joe Binks is better than Chunk, but yeah, this is hard. This is a tough one. But I'm gonna leave them there. They're probably it could go either way, I would say. They're probably middle A tier, but I feel like they are so versatile, both of them, that they should belong up there. They should both be up there. So yeah, there we go. Good old Kovan, the dragon. Oh boy, where are we gonna put him? The RNG beast. That is what I'm calling him. Kovan the RNG beast. Well, I think as a tempo builder, he's probably in C5 or C3 here in this case, C3, just behind Demonstra. But when it comes to late game, he's probably D. Yeah, he's probably D. The problem I have with Kovan, we're going to put him in C, right? We're going to put him in C. The problem I have with Kovan is there are a lot of artifacts, not a lot, but there is some artifacts that he could get that just is simply not good, depending on what kind of unit bands you have. If you have specific unit bands and you get a specific kind of artifact to begin with, that might not work together. Like if let's say vampires and Atlanteans are banned, right? Then then you get what's it called, the Executioner axe. Then you only have one other unit that you can really get early on that would scale with the Executioner axe, and that is the Greg. That would be terrible news. That would be terrible news. But he could also get something really good. There's a lot of things here that could be really good. Like he could get the what's it called, that treasure thing where if you lose a fight you get 4 mana. Just lose the first fight and you have 4 extra mana the next turn. Bang, you're on. You know, just take a mana pest and you're on. Now that's what is funny about Kovan, because he can also go crazy early on. He can be crazy. So it's like that if you're into that kind of RNG based kind of, yeah. I just don't rate him very high because of I have been a little bit unlucky with him, but you can definitely also go, he can just go bang right up here, right? If you're lucky. If you're feeling lucky, go for him. That's what I'm gonna say. You can definitely get lucky early on and pretty much secure yourself a top 4 spot if you really get it. Anyway, it's a C. Loss. That is what the sound is when you smash the door, right? Jesus Christ, that's a bad joke. So Lars is, what is he, right? He's the Babomba main, right? He's the Babomba. Where is he gonna go? I think he is straight into a B tier. And he is gonna go straight into right after Bullhead, I think. Or just in front of Bullhead. Yes, just in front of Bullhead. Just behind Jago. I think Lars is okay in the top 4 kind of situation. He got the Raticans he can go for, right? He got some decent stuff going for him. Of course, the Babombars and stuff like that. He's fairly good. He also got Elementals. No. I mean, one thing I want to see on him open is the Coven, of course, clearly. I mean, if Coven is not open, don't take Lars, right? But Ratican and Elemental is... Ratican is really good early game, so if Coven and Ratican is open, well, that's an easy Lars build. There we go. We go Ratican early and then swip over to some kind of Babomba build later on. That's the way. That's the obvious way for Lars, I think. But if Elemental are also open, then you all of a sudden have so many viable choices with Lars and the final builds. I really like Lars, but I can't really go higher with him because I haven't enough consistent plays with him where I could say that he is better than that. I think he is about mid-tier B, so that's where I'm gonna put him. Malarkey, that is... Right, how many overkill units do we have? We have 3 in total in the game, plus a Frosted Axe. And the problem with the overkills is, of course, if you have 2 overkill units, well, only... You're kind of missing out on one of the bonuses with him, because you can't really hit 4 units in the back line because there's only gonna be 3 units in the back line unless there are something that is spawning in the back line. So it feels kind of wasteful, but I'm not sure if he's a really bad AD. I just don't like playing him, and it's like Chechonk. I don't like playing him, but I also don't think he's that good because he specifically needs overkill, where Chechonk can go many other places, right? He can go all over the place. Where Malarkey, he just doesn't have a lot going for him. But he can absolutely be disgusting to play against. Absolutely disgusting to play against. So I am gonna put him in F, but he's gonna be top F, right? He's gonna be top F. But I wouldn't take him above any of these guys up here. I would still take Insidious, Gordo, Brotusk, Batibat before Malarkey. So he's gonna go down there. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. As a tempo builder, I think he would be in D, but because I just don't see the end game for him, he's gonna go in F. He just has to be in F. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, and of course, vampires, demons, and eldritch. That's the units you want to see not banned when you're playing Malarkey, because that's the 3 things where you can get overkill. So that's definitely, you know, things to go for. Anyway, that's the end of Malarkey in F. Morg, the absolute crazy-looking monster here. How good is Morg? That is the question. So I probably overrated him slightly for a long time. I definitely had him in S tier, also in front of Boss Ferrator, and even ground him at some stage early on. When I, a week into my, a week in when I started playing this game, like probably 40, 50 games in, I just started going Morg crazy, right? And I got into top 4s constantly with this guy, and that is what I think he is. He's in top A, like around here, top A, kind of top 4 character AD. But I think he is missing a couple of things. Like I think Guardian Soul is better because he got Barrier. I think Chechonk is better because he got the elements. He got the links. That is better later stages than Morg's abilities. So I think Morg is below them. I think he's gonna go in front of Ice. Actually, in front of Ice. I think he has. I think Ice is subject to getting out of top 4s too often compared to Morg, right? But I also think that Morg is not better than Joe Binks. Joe Binks can do enough to get into enough top 4s and also winning positions compared to Morg. So I think Morg is going in there, probably low A, probably a low A, where I, just a week ago, and maybe 1.5 weeks ago, I would have considered him an S, where he's now going down into, bottom A tier. So yeah, Morg, you are in bottom A now. Orbis, Orbis. This is one of those characters, an AD characters per se, is... How could I not rate him high? No, I'm not gonna rate him high. What I mean about rating him high is he's very unique. He's very unique in a way, right? Because he can do some stuff no one else can. He can just those counters, right? You can go and trigger 3, even 4 promotions and just bam! You all of a sudden, hey, here we go. We got a Hydrax that got 400. There we go, decent. Or something like that, right? You could just go crazy. You can go crazy extreme. This is the most extreme high roller there is. He is like God. He's like God tier S roller. When it goes really well for him, he's God tier S roller. High roller. But when it comes to top 4s, he's like, kill me. Just when it doesn't go well for him, it really often goes really bad. So he's like in a tier below these F guys, in a kill me tier. I should add another tier said kill me. So where are we gonna rate him? Because he's the most, he's the AD that kind of fluctuate the most of all of them, I feel like, or at least have the capability of fluctuating the most. I don't think. Now, I actually don't think he's worse than Inferno and Akash. He's probably worse than Malarkey in many situations when it comes to just stabilizing in getting into top 4s. But I don't think he should be down there. Absolutely not, because he do have that capability. He's that high reward, high risk, high reward kind of play style, and I do not mind that from time to time. But I cannot bring him higher than in C. That's where I think he belongs. But he got the capability of being both the kill me tier and also the godlike tier. So he's gonna go into C, and he's gonna go into the lower. He's probably in front of Kovan, I would say. Probably also in front of Demonstra. He's probably still. I don't know how many we're gonna get in C, but I don't feel like he's probably top C, but he's definitely probably mid C somewhere. So yeah, all this, unfortunately, you can't get any higher than that because you're just too inconsistent getting into top 4s for me to rate you higher than that. So there we go. Ucycles or this name is just terrible. I hate it. This is the name I can't pronounce at all. Is it Ucyrigals or Ucycles or I don't know. But yeah, he's a mummy, right? He's a mummy. So where are we gonna put this old mummy? Well, I think he is one of the better tempo builders. He's probably an A, probably low A when it comes to tempo, probably higher than Ice, probably not better than Morg, but yeah, kind of is, but not really. He's in here when it comes to tempo, but his problem is he falls up kind of a lot when it comes to the late game. He's probably like in C, like low C when it comes to the end game. Yeah, so I think we're gonna go with like a low B behind Hack, maybe. I think we're gonna go with behind Hack. Is Hack really placed correctly here? Should Hack be higher than this? I'm gonna go back to Hack here for a moment and just, yeah, I don't know. No, I feel like he is correctly placed in B, low B. And I think Ucyrigals, or Cycles, or whatever his name is gonna go into just behind him. Because Hack can still do things, right? He can definitely still do things. Maybe he should be in front of him. Cycles is probably better than Hack in the early stages of the game. And it's also, I mean, Hack is really good. Yeah, it's around this level. It's around this level, I feel like. So let's just have them there. Let's have them there. So I don't really. Is there anything you want to consider with Ucycles? Not really. He can kind of play any kind of units. He doesn't really care. He just have that big old damage on the first hit and, you know, on the first slot. But it just doesn't really work too. It can even, because of the what is it called, that yeah, it can actually be really bad with that. What is it called, that thing he does? Strike. I forgot what it's actually called. I know what it does, I just can't remember what the hell the name is. Stunning Strike? Is that the name? I don't feel like Stunning Strike is that great, because it can actually be, if the first unit in slot 1 hits something that you don't want to be Stunning Striked, then it's actually, you know, terrible for you. Like a buff unit that doesn't die from it and then it doesn't attack. That's terrible, right? So he's not the best kind of character in the world, but he's still in the B because he's very good early game, very good even. You know, overkills and getting you know, Executioner Axe with Overlord or Greg and all that is just fantastic on him, absolutely fantastic. But yeah, no higher than a low B here. Pandara. It is almost like opening an Pandara's box when you're taking this guy. Oh man, it's like it's fun to take it, but it's also gambling. It's like, I mean, this game is of course gambling in total. You're always gambling when you're playing this, but Pandara is like that extra. You're putting something extra into the gambling when you're taking Pandara. If you get hit 3 times in a row, you're gonna kill yourself, aren't you? You just, oh, not again. You know, you hate it. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. I think Pandara is going into C in front of Orbis. that's kind of where I feel Pandera is. I think Pandera is just below average when it comes to tempo. It really depends on what he gets. He can be, he's like all this, right? He can be up here in S tier when it comes to tempo if he gets siege or if he gets ranged or anything on a really good unit. And he's also a little bit of a hard character to play because you do have to plan out when you want to take units and when you want to upgrade units and all that kind of stuff. So he's also not easy to play, like Albus. Not easy to play, these two. Same with all seeing. All these three are not easy to play, and that is also making them subject to... I think all three also are subject to luck, right, or RNG, because they all have things they need very, very hard to happen. And Pandera is also not terribly good in the later stages of the game if he doesn't have gotten those units and scaled those units with siege, ranged, maybe even shadow. Shadow can be good on some units, right? Stunning strike, probably fourth choice, right? But yeah, it's like you're rolling a dice when you're taking Pandera, and you also have to be at least know what you're doing on a Pandera to make it work. He's a C. He's a top C, mid C, probably mid C player or character. So AD. Yeah, there we go. Pandera C. The rats. Oh yes, the Raticans. Oh, here we go. So where are we gonna end up with Ratch? Good question. He's solid. I think he's solid, especially as a early kind of tempo builder. I think he's probably A, somewhere up here as a tempo builder. Now, he's not scaling too well with the late stages of the game, but because he can kind of get into top 4 that easily, he will find himself in positions, also because of Raticans is kind of good end game. He definitely falls into the group of late B kind of. When it comes to... He doesn't have an ability that actually works there, but he's just so good and consistent, and I also see him on other players very consistently getting in there. So I think he should probably be B1, you know? The first slot here in B. It's kind of where I'm seeing him right now. He's just a very consistent kind of pick. And I like him. I do like him, but I do consider the next one to be slightly better, right? So if we take the next one here, Rattiness, and of course, if you're not going... Here's the thing about Ratch. You have a problem if you're not going Rats, right? You have to go Ratican. And that's why I'm rating Rattiness a little bit higher. And also the summoning is maybe a little bit better than the +1 to all rats. Just slightly better Rattiness, I would say, because Rattiness here could also make these summoning things work on other kind of like champion and the mounted artifact and stuff like that. It just works a little bit better than Ratch kind of ability. So Rattiness is gonna be scaled or being put into a higher tier, which is gonna be A, I think. Yeah, and fairly high in A as well. I think as a tempo builder, he's probably an A1. Right? He's up there, right? The problem is, of course, if you don't get the rats. But you do have other options as Rattiness. You do have a couple of other options, right? But he is subject to being countered with not getting the rats if someone else is taking rats as well. That's a problem. And that's also a problem for his late game, where I would say he's probably falling down here, behind eyes. Somewhere around here, if we're talking late game. I think eyes are better. I think demons are better late game, especially on eyes. And I also don't think he's gonna beat Morg as often to a top 4, Joe Bings, Shitonk, stuff like that. But I think overall, I am gonna put him fairly high here. I'm actually gonna put him in the second spot here. That's how good I think Rattiness is, and how good I think rats are on Rattiness. Where he also have the possibility of still pivoting in towards some kind of strange mounted, or he can do a couple of different kind of the champion can go crazy on him. He can get really lucky and get some crazy builds that are not even that Rat's build specifically. So I feel like he does deserve to go way higher than Rat is, but both of them are definitely good picks here. Yeah, I like both of them, and I think Rats right now are still in a good spot. Even after they were nerfed, with the Swarm being nerfed, I still feel like they are up there. They are consistent in top 4. They are consistent winning games. They're just good. They're just good. Rascal. I don't know what he is. What is he? Is he like some kind of... He looks like some kind of small hammer shark that went out of the water and evolved a little bit. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is, but I know he's not exactly my favorite character. He's alright. I think he's probably around mid-tier B when it comes to tempo. That's probably where he belongs, like with the likes of Bullhead and Fallen One, Lars maybe, Jago. But I do feel he falls off way more than these guys do when it comes to the later stages of the game. When it comes to the later stages of the game and winning, he's probably more like in D. He's just not that great. Those stats are just not scaling like the likes of Groundson or 10-foot, or, you know, he just doesn't have that kind of scaling later in the game. So I feel like he's more like in D when it comes to the late game. Where are we gonna put him? Probably mid-C somewhere? Probably in front of Pandera, I would say. So, right there. I feel like there might be one or two more in here, so I'm gonna put him here. I think he's behind All-Seeing for now. I would rather take an All-Seeing than I will take Rascal right now, so that's saying a lot, I would say. That is actually saying a lot. So yeah, Rascal, you go in there, and I do believe if you're taking a Rascal, Raticans are pretty decent. For that early tempo build, Rascal can pretty easily get into top 4s with just Ratican builds. Yeah, and there you go. That's a pretty solid top 4 spot for you, but getting higher than that, that's gonna be tricky. That's gonna be tricky compared to a Ratiness or a Ratch, of course. On a Rat, I just feel like he doesn't belong in the B with some of the other tempo builders. So yeah, he's gonna go in the C for me. But it's not a bad character to take, honestly. I think he's okay. Oh, my queen, Roka. That sounded really wrong, but let's go for it. Okay, so Roka is a fairly decent tempo builder, and it does scale all the way through the game. If you have to be very specific about what you take, and also how you know, there is also some luck involved with it, because if you get, you want this tank thing to be buffed on a specific characters, and it can sometimes just go completely wrong, and then it's actually a hindrance to your gameplay. It's like it's one of those characters. If it works really well. I actually had a game today with Roka where I did win in a 7 lobby situation. I actually think it will be on recording. Yeah, it will be on YouTube at some stage after this episode is coming out. But or maybe it was, I don't remember if it was a 6 or 7 player situation, but where I went greener and I promoted into a cavalry, and that cavalry just became the biggest unit ever, and I had the likes of Malarkeys and Overkills, and I could just, you know, take that tank up and down compared to if there was Overkills or anything I needed to deal with. So sometimes Roka works really well, and when it does, I feel like it's a B tier kind of tempo builder, but I still feel like that it's probably not more than a C when it comes to end game scaling with that +3 buff tank thing, because sometimes it just doesn't work out how you want it to. So I am gonna put her on C1 in front of All-Seeing. It's a pretty good C pick for me. It's pretty good C1 pick for me. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, actually. I think that's where it belongs. Definitely yeah, in front of Rascal and All-Seeing, and the other ones are definitely weaker picks in my eyes as well. So yeah, Roka straight into the C1 spot here. Scarlet Huntress. Yeah. Well, it's a character that could be good with, you know, a couple of... I believe there was an entire category of units taken out of the game when we went live. And I believe she was built around those kinds of units, or at least a lot of them. But she's not really working right now. She's I'm still gonna put her in front of Inferna. But I don't really rate her. I don't really. I don't have. There's not a lot of ways where you can get Scarlet Huntress to work really well with anything really. Neither tempo or late game. It's very niche. It's very niche, the Scarlet Huntress. So I'm gonna put her in F, and I don't really. Is she good? I think she's okay with greeners, just because you can have like. Yeah, you can have the boots to be in the front line, right? Yeah, you can have the boots in the front line. I don't know about it, but that was just my initial thought. Maybe greeners are good, and then just buffing up the greeners, having the big unit in the back line, letting the boots die in the front line, and then you have the the captain spawning out things or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's just very niche, the Scarlet Huntress. So yeah, she's gonna go in the F tier. There we go. Silver Beak. Now this is currently one of my favorite ADs to play. I really like taking him, or her, I'm actually not sure. I'm gonna go with him. So Silver Beak is one of the more hard characters to wrap your head around, I would say. And also very hard to... he's very situational when you're playing him, right? You have to really... This is not a guy where you can say, oh, there's a greener, I'll pick that greener and just take that out of the shop. And you can't. You need to really focus when you're playing Silver Beak. You can't just, wiggle your way into a top 4 here. But what I want to say here, if you are a player that a try-hard kind of guy or woman, Silver Beak is for you, right? I feel like he is actually. I might even be underrating him, to be honest. But I feel like when it comes to tempo build, he's up here. He's in front of Rattiness when it comes to when it comes to tempo builds. He is actually in front of Rattiness in that case. But when it comes to late game, he's dropping down here somewhere near Eyes, or even a bit further back if there was more characters. He's not that great in the later stages of the game. He's probably even down here, to be honest. He's probably in B tier when it comes to the later stages of the game. Yeah, probably B, mid B when it's late stage. But I think he belongs in... Where are we going to put him? I think we're going to put him just in front of Morg, actually. That's a big statement. Putting him in front of Morg is a big statement here. But I could still be underrating him. I could still be underrating Silver Beak because he is so good in the early stages of the game, or especially the mid game. But it is also in the mid game where the absolutely biggest traps appear, right? That is where you can also just completely slaughter the run. But you can also absolutely win the run in the mid game. Here's the main thing about Silver Beak. He can play anything, right? He's very good with Ratican. But he can play anything. And you can kind of, if you're good enough and have time enough and understand the game enough to look at the other players and see what they play and build up your hand, build up your characters, build up a strategy with Silver Beak, you can definitely get this guy into a top 2 very often, right? Very often, because he can absolutely change. He's probably the AD that are, if not the best, then at least top 2 in terms of changing directions. And I love that. I absolutely love that. But you have to be very careful, and you have to really be considerable when you do your things in the mid game. But yeah, he's a solid one. But he's very hard to play, right? He's probably one of the, if not the hardest, again, top 2 hardest characters to play, in my opinion. So Silver Beak, straight up into the mid-A's somewhere. Love him. He's probably my favorite right now, to be honest. Not in terms of house. I mean, I would say I would still pick the Groundston over the Silver Beak here. But when there is a Silver Beak and something else down here in this tiers, I'm gonna take Silver Beak. So I have only lost 1 game with Silver Beak after 16 games, and when I'm saying losing, I'm saying below top 4. 1 game out of 16, I've been outside of top 4s. He's rock solid. He's rock solid. Yeah. So there we go. So, the big old 10-footer. Oh boy, where are we gonna put him? Oh, I don't... this is like... yeah, he's S tier. I mean, there's no two ways about it. The question is he gonna go in front of Groundson or, you know, before Groundson? Or behind Groundson. I think he's gonna go behind Groundson for now. But they are similar in strength, I would say. But I think Groundson had the advantage of actually having the links. So I'm gonna give it to Groundson in terms of who is gonna be in front here. So yeah, 10 foot straight into the S, and you know, Ratican, great, and there is a lot of things that are great on 10 foot. Anything that doesn't involve links, basically. He's just great. He's just... I feel like he's probably... 10 foot is a little bit problematic when it comes to... You have to kind of high roll. You have to kind of high roll on 10 foot, but you still also... And you have so much, you know, +1/+1s each round or each level that you don't even care about high rolling because you're easily in top 4, right? It's just, whatever. Just, go for the Gregs, go for the whatever you want to delish, whatever kind of build you're going for the high roll. You can just do it on 10 foot. He doesn't care. He just will steamroll straight into the top 4s, right? And then you can go from there. So yeah, just go for it, man. Go for it. 10 foot is crazy. He could even go behind the Groundson here, but I'm gonna put him here instead. So there we go. Baron is also very good. Baron is also another big green dude that is very good. I haven't played him a whole lot actually, and it's not because I don't want to play him. It's just because I don't get him. I mean, I just don't. I'm just not allowed to play this dude. I wish I would be allowed a little bit more to play him because I think he is really good. Actually, really, really solid. How solid? I think he is S1. I think he's above Groundson when it does come to endgame, right? When it comes to the endgame, I think Baron is the best. Getting those tier 6s in tier 5, it's just a joke. It's just a joke, man, because you don't have any competition for the tier 6. And getting a lot of early artifacts, you're just building toward the end game so early on, and you're still good enough to also handle the early game. Very often you are good enough to handle the early game with Baron just because of those early artifacts you get that are a tier higher. So yeah, I feel like he is subject to not getting top 4s if he doesn't find those artifacts. So that is where he's like dropping really far down, like maybe even into a C when it comes to the early stages of the game. But being said that he can drop down here when it comes to tempo is, you know, he could also be in B when it comes to tempo, but there is a bit more luck involved when it comes to getting those triples, getting the right artifacts, you know, to make sure that you are in top 4, right? But if you do get into the top 4, yeah, he's here, right? He's here. Then you're good to go. And I do feel like he's kind of a high roller in disguise. Right, that's kind of what he feels like to me. I'm gonna put him in. I'm gonna put him right behind Ratinus, just because of that he don't have the same strength in the early stages of the game as many of the other, you know, what I would consider S tiers or even A tiers. So yeah, he's kind of weak in that spot, but he could also be strong in that. You know, he's kind of like a better version of Orbis or All-Seeing or Rascal. No, sorry, Pandera. I mean, because he's just a little bit more. There are a bigger chance that you're gonna survive those early stages as a high roller on Baron because of those artifacts. You can go for. You can really go for it on him, and I like that. I do like him, and I feel like he is a good choice. Really, really, really good choice. So there we go, into the A, but he could also be S. Honestly, in many opinions, in many other guys, or maybe your opinion is that he is an S tier. I just feel like he's lacking slightly bit in the tempo build to be considered an S tier. And I also think Guardian So and Ratinus got him beaten overall. But it's opinions, right? It's opinions. So there we go. The Wurfel. Oh yes, the German. Oh, where are we gonna put this? Sorry, AD. Can we put it anywhere but the last place? I don't think so. I haven't found out anything that could work on Wurfel so far. I think it's terrible as it is right now. It's the worst AD to me. It's even worse than Inferno. I mean, I don't even know if I can't really. The comparison is really hard here, but it's probably the worst. It's probably the worst, but I don't think I will ever take him again until he has been completely changed. There is a couple of things that have been suggested in the Discord. Also, myself have suggested something that could be done to him. And before he's changed, I wouldn't play him. Honestly, I would never pick him. There is always a better choice than Wurfel. He's the worst. He's the worst AD there is. And that's about what I can say about him. Last but not least, Sereth. Brilliant name, and I like his artwork. Where are we gonna put him? I mean, he's kind of those guys that he's gonna go down into the bottom, right? He's not great. He's not great, but he's not terrible either. He's not as terrible as maybe Inferno and Scarlet Huntress. Even a Cash. He's probably he's better than a Cash, and he's also better than Malarkey. We're actually gonna put him behind Batty Bat. Why? Because I feel like he's actually okay in tempo, at least better than some of the other guys down here in tempo. But he kind of, I don't know, I just don't, he's probably not as great when it comes to, I mean, Assassins, it's just, it can be good, but it's very often just not great at all. There is definitely a argument that Malarkey is better than Sereth, but I feel like maybe I played 2 times for Sereth and I won both of them, so I can't even remember how it went. But apparently I got 100% success rate with Sereth. So he's my best statistics kind of character, but I don't rate him. I don't rate him at all. I think he's terrible. I actually think he's terrible, but not as terrible as the other 5 in the bottom here. So yeah, that's gonna be the last AD until, I don't know, maybe I'll make another one. It depends on how many views it's gonna get and stuff like that, or if I just enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed making this one. It was fun. It took time. It took time, but it was fun. It was really fun. And yeah, there you go, guys. That's my tier list as of this date, which is the 19th of December 2022. But yeah, I will probably, this is gonna change in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. Surely it is. It's not gonna stay this way. Things change, the meta change, characters change, updates are made, you know, stuff happen. So yeah, there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little episode. Well, I don't know how long it was, but it was probably quite a long one. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. So yeah, see you in the next one.